you had quite a debilitating illness and, only about 10% functional. You'd been bedbound for almost 3 years. How did flow states and like getting into a flow state, how did that sort of help bring you back to life? I think you described it as.
Yeah, so it was a really radical experience. As you pointed out, I've been sick for about 3 years. I had Lyme disease, and the doctors had pulled me off drugs. There was nothing else anybody could do for me, and I was suicidal. I was going to kill myself because I was, I could literally work like 40 minutes a day, and the rest of the time I could lie on the couch and moan, right? And in the middle of like, the question of when was I going to do it, that sort of stuff, a friend of mine shows up at my house and demands that we go surfing. And it was, it was a ridiculous request. I couldn't walk across a room, forget about going surfing. And she wouldn't leave and wouldn't leave and wouldn't leave and kept badgering me. And after, 3-4 hours of this, I was like, whatever, who cares? I can kill myself tomorrow. Let's just go surfing. Anything to get her to shut up. And she took me out to the waves, and they literally had to walk me out to the break. I couldn't walk out there on my own. They gave me a board the size of a Cadillac, and a couple seconds later, a wave came, right? It was a tiny day, maybe a 2-foot little wave, but I spun the board around, paddled a couple times, and I popped up into a totally different dimension, right? A dimension I didn't even know existed. My senses were incredibly heightened. Time was passing strangely. I seemed to be passing in a freeze frame and a crawl. And the craziest part was I felt great. I mean, like, I felt better than normal. I felt amazing, right? The best I'd felt in years. And it felt so good. I caught a couple more waves that day and had these same quasi-mystical experiences along the way. And, went home and was totally disassembled, like couldn't move for a couple of weeks. But when I could walk around again, I went back to the ocean. I did it again. Had the same kind of crazy quasi-mystical experience. And over the course of 6 to 8 months, when the only thing I was doing differently was surfing and having these strange altered state experiences, I got better. I went right from like 10% functionality, as you said, up to about 80% functional. And so my first question was, what the hell's going on, right? On top of the fact that like I was feeling better and surfing should not be a cure for chronic autoimmune conditions, I was having these quasi-mystical experiences in the waves, and I'm a science guy. I don't have quasi-mystical experiences ever, right? And I was sure the disease had gotten into my brain and was rotting my brain and eating that's why I was having these experiences. So, I lit out a giant quest to figure out what the hell was going on with me. And first thing I discovered is that these strange states of consciousness that I was getting into had a name, right? We technically call them flow states, right? They're moments of optimal performance when we feel our best, when we perform our best, or kind of more familiarly, those states of total rapt attention and focused absorption, where you so concentrate on what you're doing on the task at hand, everything else just disappears. And performance, all aspects, mental and physical, go through the roof. I also discovered that there's a big neurobiological change in the body that happens as we move into these states. 2 things happen important for my story. First, the nervous system gets reset. So all the stress hormones get flushed out of the system as you move into flow, and it calms the nervous system down. Autoimmune condition is the nervous system gone haywire. So calming my nervous system down, that was a big deal. The other thing is there's a bunch of neurochemicals that show up in flow. All of them boost the immune system. So the combination is what allowed me to get back to health. But what I quickly discovered, and the reason we're talking today, is kind of the same state of consciousness that got me from super subpar back to normal was helping normal people go all the way up to Superman.
If what you've heard on Flow Research Collective Radio has been helpful, please consider doing us a solid and leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening to this. Reviews help us connect to a wider audience so we can get these peak performance principles out to more people.